Welcome to another episode of Relatively Famous, the podcast where I, Chip White, talk to relatives of famous people. My famous relative is Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune. That's why I have a podcast about relatives. Today, our guest is Gabriel Cannon, the brother of Nick Cannon, who you know from Snick House and all that, and he's everywhere, man. Nick's been everywhere. I'm super excited to have Gabriel on. And speaking of family, if you're looking for the perfect family vacation, be sure to go to visitmyrtlebeach.com and plan your vacation. If you happen to be traveling with an autistic child or an adult or a sensory sensitive child or an adult, be sure to check out the TV show Traveling the Spectrum, and you can find the link on visitmyrtlebeach.com. And today, let's welcome Gabriel Cannon.
Relatively Famous podcast with Chip White.
Gabriel, welcome to Relatively Famous. I'm super excited to have you on today, man.
Man, Relatively Famous, man. I appreciate being here. It's an amazing platform. I'm here with Chip White, the brother of the amazing Vanna White, man. Like, I can't imagine, so I'm just happy to be here, man. I appreciate you having me, man. And all that you guys are doing, and then for you to make a lane for us relatively famous people, man. I appreciate that. Salute to you.
Yeah, man. Let's give us a little sunshine in the shadows.
Right.
Okay. So my first question is going to be off the wall.
Okay.
You and I get in a car in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to make a road trip to L.A. What's the first song you play on your playlist?
Ooh, wow. Wow, that's a good question. I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to play Don't Take the Girl by Tim McGraw. I'm playing Don't Take the Girl. I'm setting the mood. Me and you going to go back and forth to, we're going to go from different genres, from country music to rock music to hip hop. And we're going to just try to top each other with I Bet You Don't Know This Song game for sure. But I'm starting off with Don't Take the Girl, Tim McGraw, baby.
That's a good choice. Kind of leaves me speechless on that one, man. I'm not sure what I would play. It'd probably be some beach music song, that I grew up with, like 60 Minute Man or something.
Okay.
Something. I'd go so old, you'd be like, who is that, man?
Hey, but I'm a student of music, so I'm going to be soaking up everything.
Yeah, now, so you are a musician or music producer. Kind of fill me in on your music career real quick.
Man, music, man. I just have a background in music. Me and my brothers grew up just in entertainment. My dad would give us this big old camera, and he didn't let us, he was a former gang member who gave his life to Jesus, man. So he didn't let us watch too much TV. He told God that, God, you give me some boys, I'm going to give them to you. And so he made good on that promise. God gave him 5 sons. And, we would take my dad's weights and put broomsticks into the weights and make it our microphone and pretend we the Jackson 5. And man, my whole beginning of life, I learned how to spell words. P-A-R-T-Y, Party Hardy and McAlpine. That was the school I went to. But my mom taught me how to spell through song and, through music. It was almost the, ABCs. It's the foundation of learning, music. So it's always been with me. Right now, I'm independent artist. I'm definitely changed the game a little bit. I was signed to Def Jam. I was making all kinds of music. I got a song called Sorry Ass Apology, song called Cakes with Fabulous. But yeah, it was on Def Jam, tour with Mariah Carey the whole 2010 on her Angels Advocate tour. And music is life. But right now I kind of switched it. I'm a youth mentor. YV, Young Visionaries, baby. We're in the communities on the front line. So I definitely got to practice what I'm preaching, and all these messages we're giving to the young people. So I'm definitely got a lot of inspirational music coming, and I don't want to just put it in the bag like just hip hop music. It's everything. Like I said, I got a country feel, got a whole bunch of old down south gospel in me. So yeah, just a conglomerate of good inspirational music. I'm a storyteller at heart, so definitely a lot of stories we're gonna tell, and give you other people's perspectives through their lenses for sure.
Now, growing up in Charlotte, are you a fan of Anthony Hamilton and his music?
What you know about Anthony? Hey, I met Anthony. Anthony and Nick did a video, a song called "Can I Live," and it's about when Nick mom was pregnant with him. She wanted to have an abortion, and she said his voice came and spoke to her, and she didn't have it. So him and Anthony Hamilton made this song called "Can I Live," and I found out Anthony Hamilton went to Wilson Middle School, the same middle school I went to. So it was like, wow. So yeah, man, I got to meet him on set, and he told us that, it's like, I went to Wilson. Yeah, what y'all know about Wilson? It was like, we went to Wilson, and yeah, it was one of our first Hollywood celebrities we've ever met when Nick started to get on the other levels of fame, for sure. So yeah, Anthony Hamilton, man, he was humble, he embraced us, and one of the first guys who that was famous that we was able to meet out here, for sure.
Yeah, he kind of put Charlotte on the map with a little bit of music of his. A friend of mine actually was his producer, Bruce Irvine, and
Wow.
got to meet Anthony a couple times through Bruce. And Nick, of course, I met Nick and worked with Nick on Snick House when he would just come off of It's All That, right? I think that's the name of that
Right.
show.
Yeah.
And we had some great musical guests on that show. You could see it in Nick's personality that he was going to make it. What's it like for you being the brother? Because I can share my stories, but it's a different world for you. Let me hear Gabriel's version of being Nick's brother.
Man, we could write. You know it, man. You in this seat, man. We could write a encyclopedia. But for me, it's a double-edged sword, to be honest. There's this amazing perks. There's these amazing in life, I could get into any door, well, I don't really look like the brother, so I got to tell you to Google me first. But it's stuff like that, like, it's perks. I was able at 17 to, take kids from my high school basketball team, and we going to clubs where we ain't even 21, so ain't supposed to be in here, but they got VIP sections set up for us and bottles. So, you know what I mean? As a young kid growing up, it was excess. I was a little black ashy boy from Charlotte, North Carolina, and we moved to Hollywood, and so I call it my ashy to classy story. And it was a world shift, you got to write poetry. Roses are red, socks are black. Girl, let me be your daddy Mac, type stuff. To get a girl's attention. And now it's like you got these line of people who's waiting to meet you, so it was a paradigm shift almost. Like, you ain't even gotta try hard, baby. It's easy. I'm cute, you see me? Like, but at the same time, the double-edged sword of, everything that, Nick accomplishes, those are his accomplishments, man. Me and Nick don't share a bank account. So if say that, I'm off a set, I know that because of this position, I do have contacts with, let's say, television networks. I can get a script looked at. The hardest thing for me is because, if somebody teach you how to fish, they ain't not trying to give you no fish. They rather teach you. So we can't just come pitching ideas, being related to these people and having this front row seat. They want to see you put that work in. Like, no, I don't want to hear you pitch the idea. I want to see the television pilot. So for me, like, to get a bunch of people together, and I don't have a Nick Cannon budget, and to try to shoot this pilot, and I'm not him, I ran into a lot of times of people like, I got this great idea. I know where we can take it. We can make it happen, but I can't pay y'all, and people kind of look at you like, Gabe trying to swindle us, man. You trying to play us. You Nick Cannon, brother. Ain't you rich? What you mean you can't pay us? So it's like, it's this double-edged sword of, people's idea, people idea. They see somebody on TV and their daydream can take you anywhere, of what they can imagine your life be like. Or is like, but the reality is, we all put our pants on like every other man, you know what I mean? So we got to make our way. So it's really just that balance, being in the light, the expectations, people's expectations are so high. But then, I found a season where I lost myself in the expectations. I don't really look like Nick, so I'm trying to put on these masks and I'm show up and show you that I'm funny like him. People tell you Nick Cannon, brother, coming in this big old 6'3" black dude with dreads walk in. You like, you sure? And so, those double edged. So it's trying to find that balance, and then, in your own identity, because, I mean, I can imagine you Vanna White's your sister. Like, I mean, you probably had to fight dudes talking about your sister before. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like,
Yeah.
you want to be likable. You don't want to mess up that family brand. You don't want to, put dirt on your famous celebrity's name, but you also gotta represent yourself, so identity was, a big one for me.
Yeah. It's tough too because I've also produced movies and been in the television business for 40 years and stuff. And people are like, well, get your sister to write the check and let's just go do this. And, even with her, it's like I would say, she heard a billion ideas and she's like, yeah, whatever, But until I went and proved that I could actually make a movie, some shorts that were actually doing really well, then she was like, oh, you actually are doing it now. Then she would give you some seed money and help out. But, she's never been like, let me write a check and you go make a movie, because like you got to prove yourself. And when I first moved to Hollywood, my ego, I was in my 20s. My ego was like, what do you mean you're not opening the doors? I'm Vanna White's brother, I had nothing to prove. I mean, I was, knee deep in drugs and alcohol, and they're like, yeah, dude, you need to back up, Jack, and I felt bad for her, like, in life later. So it is a double-edged sword. It opens a lot of doors. I've seen a lot of things happen, but then again, people expect something of you as your, as the sibling. How are you making your mark? Music. I love that you're mentoring kids. What is the greatest joy you have going on in your life right now?
Man, rediscovery. If you're talking about right now, it's a rediscovery process. By switching over, like, I was, like I said, deep into Hollywood. I was a rapper, hip hop rapper, and I was trying to embody every, what I mean, sense of that, because, growing up in the inner city and, struggling with things of identity, just being a young black kid who, I don't want to gang bang. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to do, the stereotypical things. Sports is past. Like, so right now it's just a rediscovery. I thought I had to surrender a lot of things. Like I said, the first time I left music in Hollywood, I went straight to Bible college. Like, God, you got to be real, because the devil is real out here. You know what I mean? And just went to go find myself, find a relationship with God. You know what I mean? Find grounding. I grew up, my dad was a minister, but you get all these other things in excess, you'll find yourself far, 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 far from home, and just really had to start backpedaling just ideas, even my idea of what success was. You know what I mean? I'm thinking because of these cars I'm driving, because I'm showing up with a different woman, and, I'm thinking that's what success is. I'm being patted on the back by, over over exaggerated, male ego of, what makes me cool or what makes me visible. And yeah, so right now, after I just left Bible college, I had thought the entertainment industry thing was over for me. I went to find things called calling. What is my calling? Forget getting rich. What was I called to do? My fingerprint is different from everybody else's on earth, and who's ever lived and whoever lived. So what am I called to do? Why am I here? I started asking questions like that, and purpose became bigger than, the Hollywood and the chasing of dreams, and so when I started discovering that, started working in the community, but then I still found myself doing everything I learned in Hollywood, even though I'm in the community teaching and doing these giveaways. I found myself using things like acting and improv. You know what I mean? So, it's like, all right, these kids, we're in a juvenile hall. Some of these kids is, burglary and murder, you got juvenile life. And it's like, how do I get them out of their shells? And, them improv games that we was doing, and those wilding out pre-games and stuff, I would just throw those out, and they worked. And it was getting these kids who was, from different gangs to just get out of their shell and express themselves. And, I take two kids, and you're the father and you're the son, and you haven't seen your son in 3 years. You used to be a gangbanger. Now you change your life, and action. They're like, what? And it's like, no, action. Like, and they got to spill and pour out of themselves in these scenes. So I just found, wherever I went, these I couldn't escape who I am and in the position that God put me in. So it's like, I am this guy's brother who's famous, but using my calling, how do I make a bridge to, create a walk, create a life? And that's where I am at now. Just now, even just because I did the show Claim to Fame, I won that show, and then, out of the blue, they just called me, and it's, I thought I got my Hollywood dreams tucked in my back pocket. And it's like, hey, there's a show about celebrity relatives. Would you like to do it? And it's like I felt it was handcrafted for me. Like, oh, I gotta do this, and there's no reason for me to go if I'ma lose, baby. So. And just jumping back into Hollywood and just, just seeing the doors open back up, but just seeing how it's still effective in the community. You know what I mean? All the communities that come out, you bring somebody from Hollywood down and seeing how, we go to these red carpet events all the time, and they got these big old step and repeats with all these logos in the back, and they spend $500,000 just on the night. And it's like, our communities could use that. Our youth could use that. We got the youth captivated, the future buyers of tomorrow. So let's challenge these brands. Let's challenge these celebrities to come get on the front line with us and, give back. I know I'd be long-winded, man. You have to stop.
That's okay. No, so you're doing that in LA. You're working with mentors. Do you ever think about going back home? Because I'm really interested. I tend to not do research on a lot of my guests because I want to have it feel like we just met at a party and having a conversation, and I want to learn. I had no idea about your dad.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about him being a gang member, and now he's a minister, and how he had 5 boys, and how he kept 5 boys in, out of that life. I'm assuming he did.
Rare commodity in our community, father. That's what they say, but they out there, man. My dad was, he was a gangbanger from San Diego, California, and started one of the sets. I ain't gonna say which one, but one of the sets down there that's huge. He actually started that gang, but through divine intervention in his life. He fell off a roller coaster at Magic Mountain. If you look back, there's some years they shut down Magic Mountain because, he fell off of a roller coaster. But that's when he was gangbang. He said he went to go slap somebody upside the head. The roller coaster took a turn and he fell off the roller coaster. He had on a blue shirt. It turned all red because so much blood. But just through interventions like that, you have to change your life. And so he, changed his life, gave his life to God. And, but that's when he had Nick. He had Nick when he was in high school. And so, there's actually pictures. It's kind of hilarious. My dad's graduating from high school, but he's holding Nick in his arms. I think Nick is barely, probably just a few months old, maybe 1 max. And so Nick was at my dad's high school graduation. And from there, my dad goes to North Carolina. And, he's changing his life. He, becomes a minister. He's like one of those televangelists. He would have, late night TV. The dudes would be preaching at night. Not the dudes who'd be selling the prayer cloths and the magic water. Not one of them. But, reading through the scriptures. He had his own little access channel. And that's where we, kind of just started learning. Nick picked up a camera. He was able to do his first comedy skit at the halftime of one of my dad's sermons, but my dad would make him keep it clean. He would turn the TV off. We couldn't watch TV, but you can't watch TV, but you can make your own TV. And that's, a lot of people don't know. People think Nick's directorial debut was School Dance, but it was actually a movie we did when we was kids called I Wish I Was a Ninja Turtle. And,
that's funny.
We would turn around and turn into these Ninja Turtles. It was crazy. But that's kind of where it all started. My dad turning off the TV, but seeing that, we had musical gifts and talent. So he's like, here's the camera. Here's how to work it, make your own TV. And we just grew into that. He would always have a nonprofit. Ironically, just to find myself, working in the nonprofit space now because, he would, I realized one of the things he used for us to get over our fear of people and also our fear of rejection, he would take us selling candy door to door, and he taught us it's a numbers game. The more the doors you knock on, the more possibilities you have for a sale. And, we didn't even realize we're getting over our fear of people and we're getting over, our fear of rejection,
right.
the tools we would need later. So he would always, my house was always filled with some of the neighborhood kids, they cutting the grass or doing stuff around right before we're gathering to go sell candy. And, just to see that they would pay their moms rent, some of their moms was sorry, but some of y'all mamas was crackheads back then. In Charlotte, baby. On Freedom Drive, y'all know.
Now, when was the last time you were back in Charlotte?
Oh man, it's been about a year and a half now, a year and a half. I gotta
Okay.
go. And to ask the question earlier, man, I want to set up a camp there. I want to set up a camp for, this camp has you come on these premises. It's almost like a Disneyland map. They got a studio for kids. They got, anger management classes. They got obstacle courses, and just there's a bookstore. There's just everything you need for, not even just rehabilitation, but intervention. You know what I mean? Or prevention. A lot of people deal with intervention. Let's intervene with the at-risk youth, but there's a lot of stuff we could do to prevent a kid from even being an at-risk youth. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
rehabilitation center for youth, or just this youth center, you know what I mean? Almost like Disneyland, but you can come to this place and put a logo on a t-shirt, and now you got your own business, and also get your anger management certificate, and you know what I mean? With the Nick Cannon studio, and the Jamie Foxx library, and the Vanna White what I mean, offices, and where these celebrities and these brands can come and just build into our future. I told you I'm long-winded, man.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, but at least you got good stuff to talk about. You're long-winded in a good way. What's the memory of the five brothers being together that really stands out to you? That because a lot of times brothers aren't close, especially when there's five of you. There's always something. What's a memory that really sticks out? The five of you guys together.
Man, it would mainly probably be stuff with my dad. Us sitting in front of, like, my dad would sit us all in front of him, and he would have this poster of Martin Luther King in the back, and he would just be reciting from his memory all of Martin Luther King's speeches. But we didn't know just by watching how that was building our patience. And he was big in karate. My dad gave us his heroes, Martin Luther King, Jesus, and Bruce Lee. So we was heavy in the martial arts. You remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, everybody was in
Oh
martial
yeah.
arts. So that was a big thing too. I mean, my dad would make us spar each other, but at the end of it is hug your brother, love your brother. So we crying and beat each other up, and but we still gotta come and embrace each other, and, like, be strong together, go to war. But at the end of the day, this is about love. So just that unity. He kept us as a unit for sure.
Great. Now, I do bounce around a little bit on my interviews because, again, we're at a party and having a conversation. So you're mentoring kids. Is there like one kid or a group of kids that really stick out in your mind that that you've seen? I hate to use the word success, but you've seen this change. You've seen that they're on the right path, if that's the right way. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. All right, so yeah, to answer the question, a, a lot of it's like all of it, like being a mentor, to see that, like, most of these kids just want to be seen. You know what I mean? So we got a group that we do called Gentlemen of Excellence, and we challenge these guys to come put on suits and ties or just dress shirts and ties every time we come to their school, like every Tuesday. So we did it for like 2 weeks. And it's been 12 weeks now, and these guys still show up with their suits and their ties on. They seen, the difference, how it looks, and how people see them when they present themselves different. Even in the juvenile halls, like, to see these kids who's committed crimes, committed murder, like, literally playing these improv games. Like, there's a game we play called Who's in My Taxi? A guy pretending he's Scooby-Doo. Is it Raxy? And it's like, if you read their rap sheet, it looks like monsters. They sound like these monsters, but to get in there and interact and engage with them, you see they're still children. They're still, what I mean, some innocent, some of them, but, in there somewhere for these young men. So it's just on every aspect, depending on who you're dealing with, just to see people's perspective start to change. You know what I mean? And to give these young people filters, because we have filters that they don't have. Like, what I mean? We consider, okay, if I do this, what will my mama think? Even like us, like, there's a lot of things me and you couldn't do because what would our famous relatives, what I mean? How would that affect that? You know what I mean? And there's
Right.
different filters, and these kids, they don't have those. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, even
it's
growing up, like, you know, we had the filters of, I know your mom and dad. I'm going to go tell them. Like, the things I've done in my, when I was a kid, and it'd be like the chief of police. I'm like scooting across the highway on my motorcycle. And he goes, "Walk it home. Don't make me call your dad." And stuff like that. So you were afraid of the consequences of what was going to happen with a lot of kids today. consequences mean nothing to them. And it's amazing what you're doing and showing them that, look, there's a life with consequences, and there's a way that the consequences don't have to be deadly.
No, for sure. For sure.
Okay. So we've made this trip across the country. We're getting close to the end. We're about to pull in right below the Hollywood sign. What's the last song you're going to play?
Dang. There's a song we would play down south, like before football games and stuff, right? I don't know if you heard. It's almost like a chant. It goes, "We ready, hey, we ready." I would play that because we finally made it. We ready, baby. It's showtime. I will play that. We ready.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll do something together. Okay, one last question. It's a question I always ask. What is the one question that I didn't ask you, or the one thing you wanted to share that we didn't talk about?
Man, you got some great questions, man. I don't know. I don't know. You asked some good questions.
Okay, let me ask this one then.
Okay.
And this will be the last one. What was the moment where you saw the switch when you said you were in Hollywood and all of a sudden you went to Bible school? What was the moment that clicked for you?
Man, I don't even think I could say it was a moment. I think it was a momentum. It was a leading. It was because a lot of this stuff, like, I think the best storytellers are the people who's been on the front line. The best reporters. You know what I mean? If you look at the Bible, Tasha, we gonna sorry, we gonna. You look in the I forgot. Oh, you look at the people in the Bible or whoever. It's like God don't look for perfect people. He don't look for, you know what I'm saying, the perfect people. It's almost the people who's got their hands dirty, who's got a story to tell. Your test become your testimony. Your mess become your message. So, you know what I mean? Those things. So for me, it was just, I had to come get an understanding. I had to come see how Hollywood's best do it on the front. This is the best of the best. No matter what they on, what they doing, this is the standard of how they're doing it in this industry. And then it's just like, make sure you're doing it for the right kingdom. So, for me, it was a learning of myself. I think if people really learn themselves, the whole world, we realize we don't all want the same things. We don't all desire the same things. We're all different. Back to that fingerprint, like we're all unique. So just to go and be able to, maneuver and grow and bump your head, but get the lesson. You know what I mean? Did you get the lesson? So for me, it was man, I had to throw up in front of some toilets. You know what I mean? I'll never do
I
this
do,
again.
man. Hey, at least you got the lesson early, man. I was 42 before I finally got the lesson. And
hey, I'm still bumping my head.
yeah, well, I'm still bumping my head, but only in a different way.
Right.
I don't bang it against the wall like I used to. I bump it. I don't bang it.
It sounds like we would have had some great times back in the day.
Yeah. It would. Thank God we weren't, man. So on an ending note, real quick. So my producer Philip Nelson, he has Nelco Media. He said to let you know when it comes time and you want to make that campaign and do that, he will help you build the studio because he builds broadcast studios and podcast studios for a living. That's part of his business, not just podcast producing. So,
y'all heard it here first. I'm going to rewind the tape, baby.
So we've got numbers. We're going to keep in touch. You keep us informed of how it's going. Gabriel, this is awesome, man. Your energy was phenomenal. I love your enthusiasm. I love the way you just love life. So I'm grateful you were here today. And tell your brother, if you ever talk to him, that I said, hey. He may not remember me, but
I got to bring him back to the Snick House days.
Snick House days.
First started, and it's like, I got to bring him back. I got to let him know we did this.
Yeah. Snick House was awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for your time, and we will chat again soon.
My brother, I appreciate you, man. Shout out to everybody. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Gabriel, thank you for being on the show today. Again, your brother was awesome in my career. I want to thank you, the viewer, the listener. I humbly appreciate you being here, and I hope that you will subscribe, like, and share. I want to thank visitmyrtlebeach.com for their support. Again, Traveling the Spectrum is streaming on, I believe it's Peacock or Paramount. Anyway, Traveling the Spectrum, check it out. And go to Myrtle Beach. Go to visitmyrtlebeach.com to plan your perfect vacation. I also want to thank Philip Nelson, my producer, Nelco Media, Nelco Comics for the great studio. If you're looking for that particular comic book, check out Nelco Comics in San Antonio. They may have it. He's got a bunch of comics. Again, thank you for being here. Oh, and if you happen to be famous or know someone famous or related to someone famous and you want to be a guest, podcast relativelyfamous@gmail.com. Reach out to me. Thank you.
You've been listening to Relatively Famous with Chip White. Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.